Today's guest is Karima. She's a surgical technologist. She lives in Maryland, USA, near New York. She has a new daughter, and she's with us today to share her experience of how she converted to Islam. Hello, Karima.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks for joining us on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, you're welcome. So this podcast is designed for people who are interested in becoming Muslim and who are researching about Islam, or maybe they're only they've been in Islam for a year or so and they're still trying to learn the ropes about Islam. So hopefully you can tell us a little bit about your experience of converting to Islam and how it was for you.
Yes, thank you. It's definitely a it's a road that you least expect for me, as far as what I thought that where I was going to be today was never a thought in my mind. But this is where Allah has brought to me, and I accepted it with open arms, knowing that I just couldn't deny it. Is basically how the feeling of it started to begin with me. I had started on a path where I didn't grow up religious. I didn't grow up, I did grow up, going to church on holidays or going to, get baptized and in Christianity. But that was about as far as it went. We weren't very strict. And when it comes to, religion, I didn't really, it just wasn't part of my life. And as I got older and older, went through more and more things in my life. And then finally, one of the hardest things that hit me was when my father had passed away, and it was very tragic. And so, it really took me down a different path that I, did not like of myself, but it brought me to where I am today. So basically, with all of that said, kind of fast forward, I had started to try and research just religion in general. So I started with my own religion. I started to try and learn how to go to church and pray and be like everyone else that I kept looking at and saying, I want that. I want to be like that. I want to have that faith. I want to have that feeling. And so, I continued to do my research and, just ended up still having questions and having inconsistencies and still kind of not, it just wasn't sticking with me like I wanted it to, like I wanted and expected and saw like how everybody else was that I, I just wasn't getting that. And so eventually I was still, kind of searching, doing some soul searching. And, I had never known about Islam. First off, I didn't know what Muslims or, I grew up in South Florida and just never really kind of grew up around communities where you see, religious, communities or ethnic communities around. So I just never really kind of grew up around, anybody else besides, I don't know. I guess I only really knew of Christianity and Judaism. I mean, those were really all I knew of growing up. I just, so for me to go down a path where I had, eventually moved towards Maryland, kind of made my way out of Florida, and I started meeting people on the way. And, the farther I went out of Florida, believe it or not, just the more, my eyes just like were more open and just meeting people that I was learning from that I never even really kind of knew anything about. So I had met a man and he was a Muslim, and I told him kind of my story, and he didn't tell me at first like, oh, I'm a Muslim, like he didn't come to me and say, and tell me, or preach to me or anything. I just knew he was from Morocco. I didn't even know where that, to be honest. I know this kind of makes me sound a little silly, but I was like, geographically, I was like, where's that? And he's, it says in Africa. And so I just was ignorant to a lot of things.
So at the time when you met him, had you already been researching about Islam, or was that the starting point?
That was the starting point. That was the starting point, because I had mentioned that, you know, of my story of, you know, my father and where I was trying to go. And I was kind of in a little bit of a depressive state, you know, where, you know, I was kind of like crying out, you know, and he, you know, was a friend, and we were close. It's more like I was telling him my story, and he had mentioned, have you ever researched Islam?
Yeah.
And I said, I don't know what that is.
Right.
So when he had mentioned, you know, it's a religion, and you know, just go and look this up, you know. So that's how it started for me. Right there was someone telling me from the Islamic faith, just go and look this up, and then you can come to me if you have any questions or anything in regards to what you look up and what you
Yeah.
see. And at that time, there's a lot of bad stuff on the internet that you can find.
Yep.
That might, you know, deter you in the wrong direction, or, you know, just everything that had gone on in the past. So with that in mind, that I was in religious mode of trying to reach something that I didn't quite know what it was yet. I just wanted to figure out, you know, faith, and researching Islam, which was the 5 pillars. And so basically it was research what the 5 pillars of Islam are. And then if you have any questions about it, then come, you know, you can come and ask me. So
So
I
at the
started.
time, what was that thing that was sort of made you curious, you know, about Islam? Was it that you had seen some exposure on the media, or you had met people? What was that thing that was making you sort of curious after meeting this man, and then you wanted to go further?
Well, I had too many questions and inconsistencies when I would, you know, when I was doing my research and when I was a part of Christianity, and, you know, I've even researched Judaism, and, you know, just as a whole, like, I just felt like something wasn't adding up.
Yeah.
And that was the only thing, like, for me, the more knowledge, the better. And so there wasn't like, there was an interest or at all in Islam. I didn't even know I had an interest in Islam yet. But as far as researching it to get answers, questions answered, is, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
And you mentioned you didn't even know what Islam was. Like,
I didn't even know what a Muslim was.
when was that?
Like,
Like,
I had never seen Muslims. Like, you know, people walking around, you know, covered in hijab.
hmm,
That it wasn't something normal in our communities where I grew up. So, you know, at that point, like, me starting to do some research on Islam, you know, when I had researched the 5 pillars, and then I had gone a little bit farther, you know, just starting to research, farther into that. And then, you know, I would talk to this man a little bit. And then, you know, he, at a point, pretty soon after, he said, you know, you seem to have a lot of questions, and interest, but if you have, you know, interest like you say you do, go to a mosque and, you know, seek some answers there, because he wants to let me know that, you know, he's not there to teach or preach, you know, because the person that's, you know, better off to teach me would be someone at a mosque.
right.
And right. And, you know, for me, I sat there and kind of pondered on that for a while, like, you know, how do I do that? Where do I go? You know, I am curious. I was just very curious, because the more I was reading about it, and what I was reading, I was like, well, why isn't this something more wide? Like, why didn't I know about this? Like, why isn't this something talked about more often? Like, maybe my eyes were closed. Maybe, you know, so this was like a whole new revelation for me, and I was very curious about it. And my curiosity is what kept driving me to bring me closer and closer.
And you
Yeah.
mentioned that when you were researching this the topic on the internet, and there was a lot of bad material there. How long did that process take of like going through different articles and researching it?
You know, it didn't take long for me. It didn't take long. Like, it just, you know, I could see which ones to steer away from, and which ones, and that was obviously helpful by the guidance of my friend. Was that, you know, don't, on who to follow. Like, you only listen to a sheikh or an imam, or, not just a random person that's on a blog, or, a random person that's, that might be steering in the wrong direction, like people that are spewing hate,
Yeah.
against it, like people that, have blogs that might be, hateful towards. So it was more like same way that you would go on the internet and you would follow reputable sites as far as when you go for medical advice, something like that. Like, kind of do your research on where the site comes from before you start reading and going in depth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And did you
So that
use anything like, were there any Facebook groups at the time or YouTube videos, or was it all just blog posts?
It was all just kind of research as far as posts, like on websites and on YouTube. But I wasn't part of any groups at that time yet. It wasn't too soon, it wasn't too far off where, I had gone to a mosque myself. So that was initially where I got even more of my information.
Okay, so
And
how long did it take to get to that period between you met your friend and going to the mosque?
well, I had known him as a friend probably for, almost a year, and even that whole entire time, I didn't know, like, we didn't talk about, Islam, or that he was a Muslim, or anything. To me, it was just a good person that, I worked with, that was, a friend.
Right.
And then once I had started talking about my religious side that I was trying to find,
Hmm.
that's when it kind of opened up. So within that time of, and me researching and then going to a mosque, was probably about 2 months.
2 months, okay. And
Hmm.
so was it scary, or how was the first sort of few interactions with the mosque?
I mean, to be honest, like after how I was feeling about what I was researching, and wondering, like, why didn't I know about this? I felt like my heart was so open, to following it, that it was not that difficult. It was a little scary, yeah, because I didn't know what to expect. But I am a sole believer on follow my heart and follow what feels right, and just go. And what do I have to lose? I don't have much, I'm trying to gain here. I've already lost. So me, I don't have much more to lose. And so I was, in a way, desperate for God, and he was opening those doors for me.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
how
So
was it at the mosque then? Or how was your experience?
the first thing I did is, I had went on the internet and Googled, the closest mosque to me. And it just happened to be that the closest mosque to me in my area was our Islamic Society. So it was like, one of the bigger congregations as far as, what they do there, because it's, they're the Islamic Society that runs most of the mosques in my area.
Yep.
Uh, and so even right there, I feel like, that was, everything was such an amazing, like, I don't know how to put it, but it was put in the place at the perfect time, for me, and with the perfect tools, that exactly for what I needed. And I owe that to God. I had researched, and when I had looked up this Islamic Society, that was closest to me, there was a class that said clean slates. And that clean slates, I was like, oh, okay. And it says for new Muslims, or for just Muslims that need to know more about their own faith. And, it was a class that was held. And I was like, wow, okay. So that sounds perfect. That sounds like something exactly what I was looking for, I found. And um, so I scheduled for me to go and just check it out. And, I just kind of took out of my head fears, or, of anything. I just wanted to go and see how it was, check it out, and see how I felt. And like I said, follow my heart. So I had went to the mosque, and there I, kind of looked around. Everybody is, as they are in a mosque. And I questioned, should I, because I didn't know if I should cover my hair or, what I should do going in. But I just felt, just to be respectful, and just because I don't know, and I don't want anything, I didn't know what would happen if I didn't cover my hair. So I did go in, initially covering my hair, and, I'm glad I did, because that kind of gave me an initial feeling of it all.
And so, were there many other non-Muslims there at the time in that class, or was it just you?
It was actually me plus like two or three others, and then there was a few that were like reverts from they were coming back to Islam, and then there was also a few that were just wanted more information about their own religion, that they were born Muslim.
Okay, and how long did that did this the class go for? How many
So
times
I
did
would
you go?
Yeah, I would go every Saturday, every other Saturday, sorry. I would go every other Saturday, so that was 2 Saturdays a month, and I did that for about 6 months.
Hmm.
And, and I learned everything. I mean, they basically taught you, just like a Bible study, or just like a class from your, when you're a child, how you learn, you know, uh, from the beginning, timeline of, how Islam became about and what Islam is and who Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is. And, just everything that has to do, the 5 pillars, the how to pray, you know, what these words mean that are kind of um, bashed in the news, that like a lot of, because back then, there was a lot of jihad, this and that, and so there's a lot of clarification
Yep.
for what words actually mean, and simple things. I mean, it was the class was very simple and just to the T of clearing up a lot of what people were messing up as far as Islam, what it was.
Yeah.
Uh,
So how long
so
ago was that when you were doing these classes?
so that was 5 or 6, I think, 6 years, 6 years ago.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And then you
Yeah.
mentioned you only did the classes for 6 months. So was that enough um, to make you feel like you were a Muslim and ready to convert, or tell us how did that
Yes. So
happen?
that's exactly right. That's exactly right. So that had been enough for me, where I, with the teacher, took my shahada after class one day. I literally, and at this point, I mean, mind you, if I can just give you a little bit of backdrop of where I had just moved here a year before that from Florida, and was here by myself. So I didn't have family, friends. It was just me and myself and my soul searching,
Hmm. Yeah.
and working. I came up here, for work, and literally was just that's what it was. And so I only had myself, and it was a soul searching moment for me, because I didn't have any distraction of anybody else, and I was just following wherever, Allah, God, is taking me.
Yeah. And did you make friends, like, as in that 6 months time, did you make new friends, and did you start like interacting with these other ladies that were learning about Islam?
Yep. So I definitely made a couple of friends. um and I did, I was like invited, sometimes over to like family house, where we would have dinner. And for me, that was all part of the, I got to experience, different cultures and things that I've never known about. So to me, that was great. And to me, that kind of was all put together, to show me how Islam is, and how the culture, there's different cultures, and how we all can come together. And it really, like, they welcomed me in, like, hi, this is there's an American woman, she's new to Islam, and my family, they want to invite you over to have dinner. That's kind of how that was when I would go to the mosque. Like, people wanted to invite me over for tea and then for dinner.
Yeah.
yeah, to just welcome me, just also because they knew that I also didn't have anybody here. You know, it was just me, and I was new to Islam, and that's all they knew. And they were like, "Well, bring her over. Let's have dinner."
Yeah. That 6 months time when you were studying and going to the mosque, it can be like a really, it's a beautiful time of our life when we're exploring new things and things seem very beautiful. So can you remember back to that time, what was that one point where you just thought to yourself, well, I want to accept Islam. I believe this, and I want to accept the beauty of this religion. Can you pinpoint that time and tell us a little bit about it?
I can. You know, for me, it was more like a moment of aha, like how, all my questions were answered right there. Like at that moment, I said, I feel like I have enough information that I've gathered for myself that I can't deny this path, as different that it might be, because it was very, very opposite and different than, how I lived my life before. But there was no denying it, and I felt that I couldn't disregard that, because if I disregarded that, then I feel like, I would be disregarding Allah, and that was what I was looking for. If that answers your question, but it
Yeah.
was kind of just a moment where, you know, I had gone home after 6 months of going to this class, and then one night I was sitting at home and I was looking at the paper of, because they gave us papers of, this is how you pray, this is what you say, um, and it had in English and in Arabic, and at back then I would just say it in English, and I started practicing it. I started in my room at night, and I would, just go through the motions of praying, and follow this paper. And, I was trying to just be like, trying to see how this feels. And it, to me, felt like, I didn't have to go any further. Like after I started to pray a little bit, and follow the, what they had given us, basically, and what they had taught me, I didn't I there's just no way I could deny it. There was no way I could deny what I felt was the truth.
Mm, that's interesting. So you started praying before you became a Muslim.
Mhm.
How long was that period where you were trying to learn how to pray and you started doing the movements and so forth?
It was so it was towards the end, like it was the last few months. I would just I would more or less, practice these movements and see how they, because to me, I knew I used to, as a Christian, I would get on my knees and pray, and, or just pray anywhere like that, anywhere, in your mind, I guess. So for me to see these movements and 5 times a day, and do wudu, uh, was a whole new routine for me. So I did practice it for about a month. I would just do, go and clean myself, and pray, and just to see how it felt. So that was about it. I did that for probably the last month before I had taken Shahada.
And then you said that you had this moment where you realized that it was all the right thing for you. And then how long did it take for you then to become a Muslim after that? I mean,
I
like
literally
officially,
had
saying
taken my Shahada.
the testimony of faith.
Yes, I literally, like, after I felt that, I can't deny this and I want to be a Muslim, I went to the next class and I did the Shahada with the teacher and a witness. So it was, it was a few days at that.
And so tell us about that moment where you actually did the Shahada with your teacher.
So when I had went to him after the class, and I, had told him that, I don't think that I want to, I can't deny what I'm feeling right now. And I feel that this is the right way. And I would like to take my Shahada, is basically what I said to him. And he was just with open arms, absolutely, I'm very happy that you chose this path. And, I'm here to help you with any information that you need. And let's just do this with a witness. And he wrote down on the board, there was like a whiteboard, and he wrote down what to say, so that I can look at it and try and say it, in Arabic. And and we followed along. I said it, and he said it to me, and then I said it, and we had a witness there. And basically we just continued to stay in contact after that. I would still go to classes and everything, and that was really it. I mean, that was all that it was. It was, something that, he said, try and come on Fridays, come to, because they did show us during the class, they would take us for a prayer time, but they were on Saturdays, mind you. So we had never been there during a Friday Juma, a Friday prayer, and to see, what they do during Friday prayer. So he
Right.
said, come to Friday. Yeah. So we mentioned, come to Friday prayer. And after that, once I had went to Friday prayer, and I kind of, I was on my own as well. Like, I kind of went to my first Friday prayer by myself. And then I started to go, and I would see certain people, and, or go with, my, just friends, like, just to get more, knowledge about Friday prayer, and what to do. Because all I knew was that, just to and I already so okay, I already knew at that point how to pray, because I was practicing it at home.
Yeah.
And then also following, they had shown us once during the class, like, they took us up, and a woman took us to the women's side and showed us how to pray. So I kind of felt like I already fit in. Like, I just really felt like this is where I belong.
Mm.
And it gave me a sense of that. Like, I really felt like this came easy for me. Like, it came like, this is where I was supposed to be. So I would go to Friday prayers, and I love going to the mosque on Fridays. It's something that's very special to me. I love to hear the imam speak, and I like to hear the message, and I like to feel the message. And, it's something special. I truly, I love sitting on the floor with everybody together, and then we all stand next to each other, arm to arm. I love it. It's something very special to me, and it made me feel like this is how it's supposed to be. This, so that's just, yeah, that's kind of my, my story into coming.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
That's a great
Yeah.
story. Okay. Is there anything else you want to add to the story of, your experience, and anything else you might have missed?
Um, let's see. So, that's really like the very beginning of it. Also, I did read, I don't know if, I went to the store, and, like, I looked for books too. So I didn't just read on the internet. I also, would, I was attempting at first, in the very beginning, before I even converted, to read a Quran, to grab, like, just go to the bookstore and grab a Quran and see if I should, look through that. And it's kind of a funny story, because I went to the store, I purchased a Quran, and it's in a wrapped case, so you're actually not even touching it with your hands. And at that time, I didn't even really know, about, doing wudu before you read Quran, or certain steps that you were supposed to take.
So what's a wudu for our audience that don't know? What is wudu?
It's a purification of yourself, that you're basically cleaning, yourself in a way that, you're preparing for prayer to Allah, and you're cleaning your hands for what your hands have may touched. You're cleaning your mouth and your nose for what your, mouth has spoken, or nose has smelling of something that might be haram, that might not be, what you're supposed to be doing. Your eyes, you're for what you see, and then you put, water over your head and your ears and on your feet. And it's basically to where you've walked, just to completely purify yourself before you pray, or before you, speak to Allah.
Okay. And you say you were mentioning you were holding this Quran in the shop, and then
Mhm.
what happened?
Right, and right next to it, there was a book. I don't know if, in Jordan, or if in anywhere else, if they have books like this, but there's a series of books here that are called for dummies, and it doesn't mean for people that are dumb. So don't. I'm sorry for the name that they call it, but
Yeah.
it's like they have, all kinds of different, like, for example, math for dummies, or, just anything that is. And there's thousands of topics,
Yep.
and just to educate people, like, that don't know. But I know the name of it is kind of odd, but right next to it, they had a book, and but it's a known book here, by the way. Like, that name. So it teaches you just, it's kind of like a Wikipedia in a book. So it was a book that said Quran for Dummies. And I was like, well, that seems like a pretty beginning book, as far as, so I bought both. I bought the Quran and I bought this book, and I started, and the Quran stayed closed. I hadn't opened it yet, and I started reading through this Quran for Dummies book. And I mean, it had a lot of information, and it had a lot of great information. And I, read the entire book, and it literally, everything I learned in that book matched up with what I was learning in the class as well. So that felt like reassuring to me, and it was nice to, see the connection. And then I had gone, so I had never opened up the Quran yet, and eventually I got to that point where I started reading the Quran. And by the grace of God, thank God, it took me a long time, but I was able to once finish the entire Quran. And so again, that gave me an accomplishment, a side of me that I, was very beautiful to me, like to, during Ramadan, to sit and read the Quran during any times, like, just reading it a little bit daily, or, so I had gotten to that point where then I was comfortable enough to read the Quran.
Yeah. I think, for people who are thinking about Islam, if they want to pick up the Quran, and they might think that it's too much to read, So do you think that just reading, like researching on the internet, on websites, is enough to understand what Islam is, or will you need to read the Quran?
I think that it kind of comes hand in hand. But I think it is too much for, in the beginning to understand it, or to, just, I don't know. I do think it would be a little much to start off with reading the Quran, in my personal opinion. I don't think that just education on the internet is enough, though, either. So it's kind of a difficult question, because I feel like education from a scholar is more the way to go.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the number one way, in my opinion, is face to face with someone that you trust, and that that person, you can feel it and you sense it, that person really loves the religion, loves Allah.
Right. Yes.
And then, the second best thing is, if you can't find that, maybe there's no one in your town or city, then, like we're saying, read it or research it on the internet.
Yeah, because I mean, there's excellent sources of scholars on the internet, on YouTube, or even on Spotify. I have somebody that I listen, a sheikh that I listen to on Spotify, that has a ton of material on there, and also on YouTube. But that's a good way if you can't get face to face, right? If you can't get face to face with someone, because it is true, you can definitely feel it more, and trust what's being said. Because if you're just reading it on the internet, it's just you making your own assumption about it, I guess,
Yeah.
and trying to learn and understand it with your own perspective. You don't have it coming from someone that of a scholar state that can really explain it and get it through with the education of it, and the the feeling in the soul from it.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay, so you were telling me about your experience with your reading the Quran, and then you read it through one whole time. That was
Mhm.
during Ramadan, did you say?
I do read it the most during Ramadan, but I also, I try and read it as much as possible, as my goal. But the Ramadan is where I do read it the most. And I was able to finish it, not through just one period of 1 month. I wasn't able to finish it, for me personally. And also, to give you some information about myself, I'm not a book reader. I'm not very big on reading. And in my lifetime, I've probably finished, besides the Quran and besides the Quran for Dummies book, I've only finished maybe one other book,
Yeah.
and not even fully through. So for me, that's huge, but it takes me a long time. So it did take me a long time to finish the Quran over a span of time, but I have actually been able to read it from front to back.
Okay. And you mentioned Ramadan. So tell me, how did Ramadan affect the way you developed and became a better Muslim?
So I was, of course, knowing about Ramadan once, I was learning about Islam, uh, and then coming into being a Muslim, my very first time that I had attempted to do Ramadan, it was the year that it was like the time between, Fajr and Maghrib was the longest. So, I had some people tell me like, just this is the longest year. This is I remember I kept hearing that this is
What's
the
the
long.
Fajr and the Maghrib? Can you explain that to our listeners?
Mhm. So those are two out of the five prayers that we pray per day, and Fajr is the very first one, in the wake before sunrise, and then Maghrib is when the sun sets, is the fourth prayer. So Fajr is the first, and Maghrib is the fourth.
And then you were explaining how this was the longest. How many
Right.
hours was this between these two?
I think at that time, I don't remember the exact number of hours. I wasn't counting the number of hours, although I just know that it was one of the longest years that had hit yet for us in our states, for where we're located.
Yeah.
That it was the longest year so far, like the longest number of hours. I don't remember the exact number of hours though.
Mm-hmm.
So I kept, being told that, or just be careful that this is don't get like thrown, don't get thrown off, or don't beat yourself up too hard if you can't complete it, or you can't, you know if it's too hard, because this is the year that it's the number of hours is the longest for fasting. And I was like, okay, all right. And so that gave me a sense of, it's okay, just do as much as I can. And I liked that feeling of, it will come to me, Allah will bring me, to where I'm supposed to be at the right time. And I always kept that in my mind.
Yeah.
So I didn't, because there are a lot of things that I feel in Islam that are definitely could be a challenge for some more than others, especially coming into a new faith and changing, your ways completely. And so I just took it as a grain of salt. I took it as, just do as much as I can and go as far as I can. And once, it's introduced to me, and that's like, as well as hijab, and fasting, and also the praying, like praying on time. And there was always, to me, I felt there was always, I can do better. There was
Mm-hmm.
a starting point, and then where I, could see that others are, and where I am supposed to be, and what's prescribed to me, that where I'm supposed to be and what I'm supposed to be doing. And those were all goals that I was working toward. And that helps me as a new Muslim to not overwhelm myself.
So
Right.
what were some of the things you did to not overwhelm yourself?
Just, like, for instance, like, so let's, with the fasting. So I started off with that year, and, you know, I would just, at first I went as far as I could. I went as much as I could. I went, like, half Ramadan, and like, I just went as much as I could, basically.
Yeah.
But then, the next year, I went the entire, like, I could feel myself, like, I'm ready, I can do this. And I prepared myself for it. I, like, even fasting during Shaban, like the holy month before Ramadan, and just trying it out a few days here and there. Also, as women, we have to make up some days. So I would keep those days, and I would make them, try and prepare myself for it. And during the time of fasting, I would try and focus, like, on, all the good things that we're supposed to be doing during fasting, and how we're supposed to be acting during fasting. And those, and it just shows you, it gives you a feeling that it's kind of like no other. And you try and explain it to some people, especially non-Muslims, and you know it's hard to explain sometimes, because it's like, you have to try it out. You got to try it out yourself, and you have to, be a part of that. to really get that full experience. Because to most people, it's like, well, aren't you thirsty? Aren't you hungry? Aren't you angry? Aren't you, there's all kinds of, well, aren't you just this? Like, because most people say, well, aren't you hungry and aren't you thirsty? And it's like, I don't know. I don't even feel hunger or thirst, it all gets lifted. It's very, very true that, and all Muslims I feel can say this during the month of Ramadan, is that that feeling is far past, like, yeah, I'm way past hunger. I'm way past thirst. I'm in a place where you can do it. And it's not hard either. It's not hard to do. It kind of was like a light bulb. It just turned on where I was able to do it, and it was a feeling of like, wow, to me, like, this is amazing. And I can go out, work all day, be and do good deeds, and be courteous to others, and watch everything. I everything is, and like how they say, shaitan, he's locked up during Ramadan. Like, I don't know, you can feel that. You can literally feel that he's locked up during Ramadan. It's an amazing feeling. So yeah, but maybe I got off track there a little bit. I'm not sure.
No,
But
that's fine.
fasting, yeah, fasting. It definitely, the first year I just did half. The second year I finished it, did it all, and it was amazing. I mean, it was an amazing feeling to where it's like you can look forward to Ramadan. You don't dread it. Obviously, why would you want to? I mean, most people think like, oh God, you're gonna have to fast for 30 days and not eat and not drink, and and it's not that feeling at all. It's actually the complete opposite. So I felt that, just like how other Muslims feel it, and to me, that brought me back to that original girl that was seeking what others want, the faith of, I want to have faith like that. I want to be, part of something bigger than myself. I want to know God. I want to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I want to know him. And this gave me all of that. It gave me a sense of that, especially during Ramadan.
Yeah. This is the thing. Like, a lot of the things in Islam, when you try to do it or you want to start doing it, it seems very, very hard. Like fasting or waking up in the morning to pray, or like trying to give a lot of charity. But after you actually do it, then you feel it, and then like you said, it's a big wow. You can't believe how good it is. But it always is a struggle to try and do these things. But this is just the way that God has made it, and it's a beautiful thing.
And that's another good point, is that the struggle is that we're supposed to struggle. Like, that's normal. Like, that's part of the struggle, which is the definition of jihad. Right there, to just that word alone. It's okay. It's okay to struggle, and it's okay to not be. We're not perfect. It just goes to show you that we weren't meant to be perfect. We are human, and it's a challenge, and there were challenges to overcome. But it's definitely a wow moment. It's a moment that you just want to scream from the top of the mountain, like, everybody needs to do this. Everybody, you wish that everybody can be experiencing what you're feeling, but it's at due time. It's when Allah, he brings you to where you're supposed to be at the right time. That I definitely am a firm believer of that.
Okay, so we talked about the Quran. This was after you accepted Islam, and then Ramadan. Are there any other points that you'd like to talk about, which about your development as a Muslim?
Yeah, so as I was saying about goals, these were all goals for me, and these are goals to be a better Muslim, to be a better person, to be to be just to have praise by my Lord. I mean, these are things that I'm doing for Allah. Like, I want to please my God. Like, I want to please and be on the right path. So yes, I was able to for now, every year I fast Ramadan, and I try, and even now that I fast Ramadan every year, during Ramadan, there's so much you can do. You know, there's so much that there's always a way to continue to work on yourself, or continue to work on yourself, or, you know, have that consistency. So I like that. I like that structure. Then, and you know, so there's always, I always feel like I add something else that I can do, you know, as far as charity, and as far as, you know, one small bad behavior that maybe I might do, maybe I might get angry if in certain situations, you know, so there's always little things that I try and focus on and work on. And then also, like, I guess if we want to talk about hijab, you know, wearing hijab was definitely, like, you know, as I said, I started wearing it to the mosque, and that was my first taste of it, but I wouldn't wear it outside of the mosque. And then I also wouldn't wear it to work. So I just only would wear it when I would go to the mosque. And then part of me, and also because my family, you know, and my family was definitely not on board with me becoming a Muslim and my decisions. You know, it kind of alienated me from old friends and certain situations like that. So that's definitely probably a little bit of a different conversation. But, you know, another challenge, I guess, was starting to full time wear the hijab. And even during, you know, I've gone through moments in time where, you know, I was very comfortable always wearing full hijab, and sometimes I would start to feel a certain way and maybe only wear like something on the top of my head and not cover my neck. And so I went through phases, I guess, as far as to see what was going on with myself. Like, I know that I want to wear it. First of all, that was my number one thought, was I want to wear it. I want to wear it because I want to please my Lord.
Was
And
anyone pressuring you, like people, friends, the mosque, or other Muslims, or
to
just,
wear it?
yeah?
No, not at all.
Okay, so it's just something that you were,
It was a
you know, trying to implement yourself.
Yep, it was definitely a personal decision. It was a personal choice. And even, you know, I would see other Muslims that, you know, would wear it to the mosque and then they wouldn't wear it outside. So I saw, like, it's, you know, it wasn't like I was in a community where I could see that they were harsh, you know. And that was a whole nother thing, you know, the way that they try and portray that, oh, women are, you know, they're forced to wear it. We're not forced to wear it. We're definitely not forced to wear it. And that was a huge message that, you know, I had to learn. Like, I learned why we did things in Islam the way that we did things, and how wrong that a lot of people were sending the wrong message. You know, so it was always nice to see and to hear. And I would always have to explain that as well, because me being a convert American, you know, once I started, like, wearing it at work, once I started wearing it full time, I got that question quite a bit. You know, like, why do you want to wear it? Like, this, you're oppressed, or you know, you're being made to wear it. Your husband's making you wear it. You know, I mean, I wore it before I was even married. So, you know, there was a lot of questions that I would get from people, and even my own family. But it was a personal decision, because I wanted to start over. My whole purpose was, I'm going to start my life over the way I want it to be, and the path that I want to be on, until the end of my life, where, you know, I can be accepted into heaven. I want to be doing the right thing now, not the wrong thing. And to me, that was part of the right thing, was wearing hijab. It was just part of the package.
And can you tell me, like, how does it make you feel as a woman to wear this? You know, like, for example, what is your intention of wearing it, and how does it? What are the effects of it wearing it with other people around you? You know, like, so can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So my intention of wearing it is again to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, solely just because it's the right thing to do, and it protects me. It is my protection. So that's my intention. It protects me from others. It protects me. It gives me a protection from God. It gives me a protection for, you know, just my faith. It
How does it protect you
keeps me grounded.
from others?
Well, for me, it so as a woman, I, you know, I've definitely experienced both sides of the spectrum, wearing it and not wearing it. And the way that life unfortunately tends to be, out in public, not wearing it, even you dress conservatively, there's an attention. You get a lot of women get a lot of attention, and I saw that attention faded away. The wrong kind of attention, I'm talking, like, faded away when I put hijab on. It almost made me feel like this is my, it guarded me. It guarded me, and that was my protection from God.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I find the same thing too. If I wear a like a Muslim hat when I go out into the street,
mhm,
I feel like those occasions where something not so good will happen between the sexes, it won't happen because it's as if I'm telling them that I'm not interested by wearing
right.
that hat. And I found that was one of the best things for me of wearing a hat in public, is that I didn't have these problems anymore, and I could go about my thing, go about my my tasks with no problems.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, it really is. Have, I mean, the experiment I've definitely experimented both sides, and I've, spent my first half of my life, seeing and feeling that, being out in communities and just having that, attention, or those eyes, or those, even acts, like people tend to, and it's not like, they say, here especially, well, the women there, they ask for it, I mean, it definitely is a guard, and it's something that made me feel born again, new, fresh, and to me, like, I wouldn't have it any other way now. Like, I'm completely comfortable with, and I wear it different ways, yes, but I'm completely comfortable with wearing it, and that's because of the fact that, it does feel like protection for me.
Yeah, and the other thing I noticed is that when I was just talking with even just male friends who were non-Muslim, they wouldn't start talking about derogatory things or unpleasant things, because they knew that I was a Muslim, and that I didn't talk about that because I already made that statement in front of them. And I really enjoyed that protection as well from these
Yeah.
conversations.
Right, right. It's almost, uh, it's almost like a respect. It's either a respect or just that, a disregard. Like, that. Okay, I don't have it. If you're on the street, and you're with a group of people, it's, I don't know. You're looked at a little bit differently. Like, you're looked at as, you're not looked at as the same, I guess. I'm not really too sure. It's just kind of hard to, it's, again, that comes down to a feeling. It's a feeling that you have when you wear it, that, it's a sense of safety.
Yeah, and for a lot of people, I think they might be searching for this because they've been fed up with being treated in a certain way. They want to be
Yeah,
treated with dignity, and this is definitely something that will help.
it does. And wearing it, wearing it, and also being, like, in the workplace, or in groups, of people that are not Muslim. I always found that I still had no problem talking to everybody. People talked to me and I talked to them. And the dialogue was always an open conversation, just as if I wasn't wearing it. So that to me was really big, because at first I thought, people are going to treat me differently, or people are going to, my family tried to say, well, what if people, because here on the news, you see a lot of people, they might, like, do bad things to, when they see, Muslims, or they were doing bad things at our mosques. We have to always have police at our mosques and everything. So it was always the sense of, what if people come after you because you wear hijab? So there was definitely, like, two sides to it, but I never felt that. I tested it enough to where I would wear it out, at different settings, that I never felt threatened at all, ever. So, to me personally, I can't, comment on that side of it. I know some people have dealt with, bad things, but I personally have never felt that way, and people always treated me just the same, as if I wasn't wearing it. So,
That's
because
one.
I'm the type of person, I'm pretty talkative, and I'll be at the grocery store and strike a conversation with somebody in line, or people come to me. People I feel like are drawn to me a little bit, that I'm easy to talk to in that way. Like, there's always some kind of conversation that pops up somehow randomly with people outside that I don't know. And it's just, here, little side talk here and there, just about the weather, or about anything. To me, if people are even striking conversation with me and I'm hijab, I must be showing that, come, it's okay to talk to me. I'm an open book. And so, yeah, that's why I kind of feel like I've never really been treated differently, because it was like that even before, and it's still like that even when I wear hijab. That it's easy to have a conversation with people and then kind of even forget that I'm wearing hijab, and that's why it just kind of feels like it's part of me now. So I do feel like, yes, when I go out, that's part of how I am.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that with us. That's beautiful. So we're going to have to wrap it up now. So how about, can you sum up your final advice for anyone out there who is thinking about becoming a Muslim? Can you just give them your final advice?
So some advice would definitely be to seek out a scholar, for sure. That's number one. To talk to somebody that, if you have a friend that you definitely trust, to see if they can steer you in the right direction. To not get into the cultural side of things too much before the educational part of it. I guess, one, as far as, there's a lot to it, but take it one by one. And then, because I don't know if people might look at it as hard, maybe, but just little by little. Yeah, I'm trying to think of maybe some other good advice. Yeah, I think that's really about it. I don't, it really is like, just, follow your heart. I mean, really, go by, how it makes you feel, because you will feel something, because God, he's speaking to you through Islam, and if you're really open to it, then, you know the doors will open. I mean, that's without a doubt.
Excellent. Thank you, Karima. So I think there were a lot of topics that we didn't get to cover today. So maybe we will invite you back. Hopefully you will accept to come back again, and we can do another session.
Okay, yeah, I wouldn't mind.
Okay, Karima. Okay, thanks for that. And may the peace of God be upon you, and also to our listeners.
Thank you, and to you as well.